found you at work.
You sound upset. What's wrong?
There's been a raid at the plant.
An immigration raid in Postville?
Yes. Oh my God, it was terrible. I am still shaking.
Are you all right?
Yes. I was released, but so many hundreds, they were taken away.
Oh, did anyone suspect a raid?
No, the rumor this morning was that it would be in Waterloo.
Yeah, I heard it too.
And everyone kept asking me if there was going to be a raid, and if I knew it, and if I would tell them.
Of course you would. They know that.
So I told them I would check the news at my 9 o'clock break. Okay, that's fine, they said. So at 9 o'clock I went into the office and I looked on the internet. A news article said that immigration and customs agents had rented the Cattle Congress grounds in Waterloo, but it didn't say anything about a raid, so I stayed on my break until about 9:30. And then I went downstairs, and then the woman who cooks the liver, she asked me...
Ale, is immigration? Seriously, I think the migra's here.
No, there's no problem. I just checked the internet.
No, yo said there's something going on, something bad.
Okay, well, let me go check in the packing room, okay? Andres, look, we've always been friends. I've helped you out a lot. You've helped me, so please tell me what is going on.
Ali, the migra's coming. Run, hide, escape.
So I went and looked, but I couldn't see anything going on.
Everything seemed normal?
Yes. The only thing I saw was a man taking off his white work coat and taking off his boots, but I couldn't see anything else. But then I realized the workers were silently trying to make their escape, so I didn't say anything. I didn't speak a word because I wasn't going to be the one to slow them down if they were trying to get out. I just hoped they'd escape in time.
You must have been traumatized.
Yes, but it gets worse. I went back into the plant kitchen and I told the woman who cooks the livers, get this robot, get those boots off because you can't run in them. And then she went and ran off. I went back and I went to go call my sister and I told her, the migra has come into the plant and I don't have any form of ID on me. I don't have my passport. I have my driver's license, but my license is not proof of citizenship. If they pick me up, I'll have to go wherever they take me.
Did you try to run?
No, I went into the office and I grabbed my wallet where my license was. And then I went downstairs and a woman who works with me, she called to me, she begged me.
Ale, ayúdame, por favor. Please call my husband and tell him not to go out. Don't leave the house.
And then everyone else was coming up to me saying, call here, call there, and everyone was giving me phone numbers.
They must have been so scared.
We all were. And I was just getting ready to leave when an ICE agency...
Stop! You can't leave.
Why not?
The plant is under investigation and no one can leave the premises.
Well, I was just going to make a phone call.
It doesn't matter now. You'll have plenty of time to make a phone call later, but right now you can't. You just stay here with the rest of the wetbacks.
Please, let me call my husband and tell him to bring my...
No, just shut up and stay here.
So what did you do?
What could I do? I stayed. They sat us down in the cafeteria and they said...
Legal residents to the right, citizens to the left. Those without proof of status, stay seated.
So I just sat because I couldn't prove anything. I was with the women I worked with and I told them, don't forget what I'm about to tell you. Your children are all alone and they don't have anyone to care for them.
Yes, you're right, Ale. Aquí me voy a quedar and I'll tell the agents about my children.
Ale, vete. Try to escape. Fight to get out of
No,
here.
I'm not going to leave you all here alone. No.
No, Ale, don't stay here for us. Please do it.
Yes,
Just go.
please go. If you want to help us, help us. Help us
please
this
go,
way.
Ale. Care for
Go,
your children.
vete.
You stop! Get your ass over.
I'm a citizen. I know this doesn't prove anything, but if you want to look at any documentation for me, you'll just have to take this. It's all that I have.
When did you become a citizen? You don't become a citizen every day. What was the date?
October 12th, 2000.
And your husband, he works here, doesn't he? Just tell me the truth, and I can start the legalization process for you right away. I can help you.
My husband isn't here. He does not work here.
Yeah, right.
No, but my husband, he does not work here.
Let me see your ID. She might be clean. Take her ass out of here and we'll question her separately.
And so he took me to get me my things, and as he was taking me out of the plant, I was crying, and the women I work with were trying to console me.
Ale, no cry. No llores, por favor.
Look for our children. Piensa en nuestros hijos.
Go find help for us,
Go.
Ale, please.
No, Ale, just think of yourself. Think of your husband.
Ale, help me, please.
Sorry, I'm so
No,
sorry.
Ale, this is where it all ends. Thank you very much. You have been really good to us. And although I know I will never see you again, I will always remember you.
I'll look for you wherever they take you. I will look for you. And then they took me to my car and they searched the whole thing.
This is a little search.
They said that because it was on plant property, they could search it.
Come on, let's go.
Yes!
Vámonos.
Vamos,
métense.
Whatever. Let's go. Yeah. I guess there was nothing you could do. Stay calm.
Stay calm? How the hell am I supposed to stay calm? I am so tired of people telling me there's nothing I can do when people's lives are being destroyed.
Do you want me to come to Postville?
No, I have to go. I'll call you later.
Okay. I'm going to pick up my kids at the babysitter's. I'll talk to you later. Hi, Della. How are the kids?
Oh, good. We've been talking a lot about butterflies today.
Butterflies?
Yes. We found a tiny white speck on a milkweed plant. See? It's a monarch egg. We took lots of pictures. I told Natalie it would hatch by the end of the week.
Was she excited?
Oh, yes. Then Dominic found a monarch caterpillar. He wanted to catch it and take it home, but I told him that the caterpillar wouldn't become a butterfly if he did that.
Did that satisfy him?
Well, not until I explained that this butterfly had to become an adult, because it's a fourth-generation butterfly, and that makes it special.
Fourth generation? What's that, Della?
The fourth generation is born this time of year, and is the one that migrates south. They return home to overwinter, to gain strength, and to mate. They'll return to Iowa next summer to lay their eggs, but they'll never see their offspring flourish. They just die, exhausted from the trip north.
Oh, Della, I think it's great that the kids are learning so much about butterflies. Be sure to send me the pictures you take. The garden is so beautiful.
I want my garden to be a butterfly sanctuary, a safe space where monarchs can nurture their offspring.
Well, if you're as good with these butterflies as you do with my kids, these butterflies will be fine. So, where are the kids?
They're inside, drawing butterfly pictures. Come see.
Hi, we made it. I had some trouble loading up the kids. Sorry we are late.
It's okay. I'm glad you could make it. Here, take this sign.
What? I'm just here to see what it's like. I don't think I'm ready for any marching or anything. But there must be more than 1,000 people here. What's this all about?
Read the signs, Christina. There are people here from all over. Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota, Iowa. There are even reporters here from the BBC and the New York Times. I mean, this is about broken families and workers, some of them children who suffered abuse while working at the plant. Look, there's Congressman Joe Baca.
A congressman here in Postville?
He said that the way the detained workers were prosecuted at the Cattle Congress grounds in Waterloo was a kangaroo court. And there's Luis Gutierrez.
Who is he?
He's a congressman from Illinois, and he's proposing comprehensive immigration reform. And there's pastors and priests and rabbis and farmers and school teachers, union organizers, and children left without parents. I mean, everyone has something to protest.
This is a circus. But there's so many signs. Why did they all come?
Ooh, they're fed up. Families have been torn apart. People are unemployed. Businesses are closed. I mean, this is like Postville's 9/11. There's a before and an after May 12th. Postville will never be the same. This rally is about justice. This rally is about comprehensive immigration reform. I mean, this is what democracy looks like.
Are there any anti-immigrant protesters? You know, the media coverage can spotlight all the evils of immigration.
There's a few, maybe about a dozen. They're over on Main Street trying to catch the reporters' eyes. But today, the numbers are on our side. There are more than 1,000 supporters here.
I think we only told me about here. The ones with the GPS ankle monitors that have to keep on all the time.
Yeah, they're all here. I mean, they can't work and they can't leave, but they can protest. Postville's right in their limited area. They just have to make sure they're charged up.
What do you mean?
Oh, their ankle bracelets. They have to make sure they're charged. So they plug themselves into the wall while they're watching their children.
How can they do this? How do they support themselves, their families?
This is a remarkable community, Christina. I mean, there's such a strong support between the residents and the churches and everyone else, but there's still so much need.
I see. Now I'm starting to understand why you're so busy. But what can I do?
you speak Spanish, right? Well, why don't you come with me? Meet some of the women, hear their stories, then you know what to
Ale,
do.
Right now?
aquí estamos. Do you like my sign?
I love it, Raquel. Hola, Esperanza.
Hola.
Raquel, ¿qué tal eres?
Hola.
I want you to meet a friend of mine. This is Christina, and she is a professor at the university.
Encantada. Ale has been telling me about Postville, about all the difficulties here since the raid. How are you all doing?
We're surviving. Aquí estamos, aguantando. At least we have a roof over our heads. Gracias a Dios.
And all because of you, Esperanza.
What do you mean, Aurora?
Well, after the raid, I had no place to live. My husband was detained. I was pregnant. And then I was thrown out of my apartment.
It's so horrible.
Pues sí, but then Aurora, Esperanza, and Jose, they invited me to move in with them.
Esperanza, were you at work the day of the raid?
No, it was supposed to be my first day of work at a new job at the Huevera, packaging eggs. I'd been laid off at agri-processors for just 2 weeks. Something to do with my social security number not matching. Anyways, the day of the raid, I heard the helicopters overhead. And the owner of the apartment I rent called me and told me not to go out because La Migración had gone into the plant and rounded up a lot of people. They took my brother.
He was one of the first to be deported.
I'm so sorry.
I cried a long time. I was so sad to see my niece and nephew without their father and my sister-in-law with an ankle bracelet.
Raquel, were you at work the day of the raid?
Yes, I was on the line the day when the ICE agents came in and we were all shocked. I was with my husband. He told me,
Te quiero. Pase lo que pase, yo te quiero y siempre te voy a querer.
I didn't think of taking anything with me. I ripped my gloves off and threw my knife to the ground. My husband tried to rip the filter off of the air duct to help me hide, but suddenly a piece of metal hit him above the eye and he was bleeding everywhere. He was wearing a white bandana, so I used it to clean his wound. Then I went to hide in the air duct and he went to some other part of the plant.
Spread out and keep your guns ready. They could be hiding anywhere and they might be dangerous. Any sign of them over there?
All clear over here.
Help me with this. Venga, mugrosa!
No, please don't arrest me, my children!
You'll be sorry to try to escape.
Mírame, mi amor. Mírame, todo va a estar bien. Todo va a estar bien.
My children, me
Todo va a estar bien, mi amor.
We're not criminals, we're just here to win!
Vamos!
Tienes que cuidar a
Please
nuestros
don't
hijos.
separate my family!
Tienes que
Please
cuidar a
don't take
nuestros
it away from me, please!
Now all I have is a handkerchief with his blood on it. After the raid, I was released with an ankle bracelet so the government could track me.
So then what? Did ICE send you to jail that day, or what?
They moved me from one area of the plant to another. They wanted to question me, so they kept moving me around. But finally, around 8 at night, they sent me home. I walked in and I was all alone. I was sort of paralyzed, numb. My children were gone. I didn't know where they were. My husband was gone. I didn't know where he was. I had seen the buses at the plant, but I didn't know where they were taking him.
He was on his way to the Cattle Congress grounds in Waterloo, but we didn't know that then.
I didn't know what I would do without a job or without Ángel. But then I realized I had to be with my children. I started calling around and discovered they were at the church. I went to go pick them up at St. Bridget's.
So what did you do after that?
I was so sad. I just kept crying. I couldn't get out of bed for days. I couldn't even watch my kids or clean my house. My children were watching TV one day and they saw images of their father in shackles and chains. My son asked, "What crimes has he committed? Is our dad a murderer or something?" My daughter was silent. She did not speak for 2 weeks. I tried to be strong, but it was very hard. My son said he would be the man of the family now and take care of us. But he was only 12 and he could be strong.
He was so young, but he's a good son.
Es un buen muchacho.
How did you deal with all this?
I had no husband, no job, no money, not even to buy my children something to drink or shoes for their feet. But then I lifted myself out of depression. I got out of the house and I went to work at my sister-in-law's and started to weave.
They work over at Esperanza's house, and the women are organizing. They're making plans to start a weavers' cooperative.
We make típicos, traditional clothing, and tapetes, dolls. We sell them at the farmer's market in Decorah.
I would love to see all the things you make.
You could come over and watch us weave if you like.
Oh, sure. When do you meet?
All the time. I mean, what else can we do?
You should really go, Christina. You'll be amazed by their work.
Well, if I wouldn't be in trouble, I'd really like to.
Come, you're welcome anytime. And bring your kids.
Well, it sounds like the rally.
I guess so.
Yes, we can! Sí se puede! 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 Yes, we can! Sí se puede!
An immigration rally is being held today in Postville, Iowa, where over 1,000 people have gathered to protest on both sides of the controversial ICE raid that took place in this peaceful town on May 12, 2008. Sir, can you tell me why you're protesting today?
The government isn't doing its job to police immigration. There could be terrorists entering America while no one is looking.
Yeah, just because immigrants came to America like 500 years ago doesn't mean we gotta accept some wetback today. This is a great nation, not a motel.
Look, you know what kind of immigration reform I want to see? The kind where these illegals pay their fines and get their work permits just like everyone else.
Yeah!
The problem is these Mexicans have anchor babies and then they don't go home. They stay here and it costs a lot of money to educate those
So
kids.
come here illegally or get out. Is that clear enough?
Look, we don't want them taking our jobs.
Illegals bring diseases.
Can you see all the pregnant Mexican
You know, they
women?
don't even know English. Do I have to learn Spanish to make a spick feel at home?
Look, so if a robber sneaks into your house, do you ask him to stay? Huh? I didn't think so.
Can you say anchor baby?
They take our jobs. I'm unemployed. Why should they be able to work and not me?
Go home, illegals!
Send them home!
Send them home!
Send them home!
This is Jane Rawlings reporting live from Postville.
Look, this is a huipil, a traditional Mayan blouse. This bird here is called the guacamayo. He likes to eat the seeds of flowers and summer fruits.
I bet he will like Iowa.
No, he wouldn't with all the snow. This weaving starts with the sort of thick thread so that you won't have to cut it. You start with this thread here and you wrap it around the palo.
Starting with these. These are called the cadenas or chains. These are the pepitas, like the seeds of the fruit. These are the flags, and these are the arcos, like the arches in San Antonio.
Oh, I see.
These are the leaves of the jocote, the leaves of the plum tree. And these are the little worms. And here's the bird again. Look at this bird. He loves to fly and travels long distances. Sometimes when the fruit runs out in one place, he'll just fly somewhere else.
What is it called?
The gorrión, the sparrow. It has a beautiful song as well.
We have them in Iowa too, but it's not as beautiful, or at least it's not as colorful.
This bird likes to eat strawberries and apples, and he loves to fly. Now the rest of the weaving repeats the same pattern.
What is the next bird called?
That's the guacamayo again.
Is the huipil something a young woman would use at her wedding?
Sí, pues, it has the flowers to represent her happy thoughts, but a huipil lasts a lifetime, so it's really for all occasions. I remember back home all the women used to wear them.
And here in Iowa too?
Oh yeah, we love to wear traditional clothes when we're cutting up chickens.
No, now we just wear these clothes for special occasions.
I think men like to see a woman's butt in a nice tight pair of jeans instead of a corte.
Oh, it's split up then. What about your husband?
Well, he says he likes the corte skirt better because it's easier access.
So, do you have to be such an age to start wearing a huipil?
Almost any age. For example, if I have a 3 or 4-year-old daughter, I could make her a little huipil. Then when she's 6 or 7, she can learn to weave her own.
So little? Only 6 or 7 years old?
Sure, and when she can weave her own, she can choose her own colors and make herself one, or make one to sell.
And all these objects, do they have a name in the Cachican language?
Sha'anum. The leaves I told you about are called sha'anum, the leaves of the plum tree. And these are arco, lavandera, las pepitas. I guess they don't really have a name, or I just can't remember their name in the Cachica language.
Okay.
Look, this weaving is made of a special silk wool thread. It's very fine, so it has to be boiled first, but then it weaves through easily. This huipil is also handmade.
What are the flowers called?
Carnations, mums, pansies, campanula. We have so many flowers in Guatemala. Did you see the huipil we made for Alejandra? It's embroidered in the style of patsoon and uses a similar thread that shines in the sun.
How beautiful. Let's see what else you have.
Hi, Ali. What will you be having today? The usual?
Hi, Janet. Today I'll just have coffee and do you have any of the Guatemalan bread?
Ali, I let Manuel go. He was the only one who knew how to make the Guatemalan bread. I couldn't pay his salary.
That's not your fault, Edgar. We all know how hard you've been working to support your workers and keep your business afloat.
Postville has really changed since the raid, Ali. I've never seen it like this. The streets are empty.
Well, the migrants want to keep a low profile, so they stay indoors, in the shadows.
My grandfather was one... my great-grandfather was one of the first to immigrate here to Postville. He opened the Postville Bakery in 1870. We are one of the charter businesses here, but if things stay this bad, we'll have to close our doors.
I think we can make it. We just have to stick together.
You know what they say? El pueblo unido.
We'll try our best, Ale, but I don't know how much longer we can keep it up.
Look, this weaving has a campesino on his way to work the fields and the land.
He looks like he has everything he needs.
See? He's got his hat to protect him from the sun and the rain. He has his bandana around his neck. That's very typical. And he's carrying his machete.
Do people really use them?
Of course. A machete can help you in so many ways. He uses it to cut down any big weeds or even to clear a path as he walks to his plot of land. But it can also help protect you against snakes.
Snakes?
Oh, yeah. There are a lot of snakes in Guatemala.
I remember when I would have to take my little brothers and sisters out to the field. Many women take their children out to the field when they're working the land. They lay them down on a little blanket so they can rest or play while the adults work. But you never know when a snake may come and eat your baby.
What? That's why people take a dog with them to the field sometimes, too. The dog can help scare the snakes away.
I remember once we were walking back from the field and there was a huge green snake hanging from a tree.
I remember those green snakes. They would hang from the branches waiting for their next victim.
You have to have your machete when you go out to work in the campo. You never know what could happen.
Okay. I'll remember that.
Look, he's got his water here in the tecomate. He's got his tool to work the land, and he has his lunch bag here. When a person goes out to work in the fields, he'll leave very early in the morning and has to walk very far. He takes a lunch with him so he has something to eat during the day.
What do you think he has in his lunch bag today?
Well, my father would usually take some chuchitos.
Chuchitos.
Or maybe some tortillas con frijoles.
He would only drink coffee in the mornings. My father sacrificed so much for us. He would not eat so that his children could have food.
What is he wearing on his feet?
Those are the sandals that all the campesinos wear to work in the fields, but my father usually went without shoes. He wanted to provide for us. There were 6 children, and he worked so hard so that we could have a better life than he did. I think he won't live much longer. He gave everything he had so that we could each have a plot of land of our own, and he's worn out.
Is he in bad health?
See? He's losing his sight, his hearing. Just last week he fell and we will have to find him a wheelchair. My mother and sister take care of him. They take my turn since I can't be there. I just stay here in Iowa weaving and hope if I can sell just a little, I can send the money to Guatemala so they have the things they need to keep him comfortable.
You supported him in your own way, even though I can't be with him. What other weavings do you have here today?
Look, I was working on this one and I just finished it. This weaving represents la cosecha. We harvested so many different things in Guatemala. Beans, carrots, radishes, squash.
But this man is harvesting corn in the field. And these birds with the circle pattern around them represent the happiness that a good harvest brings.
What do you do with the corn?
There's a process. We harvest the corn, let it dry, remove it from the ears, save a few seeds to plant the next time, and take the rest to the miller. It costs a lot of money to have our corn milled, but we use it every day. Para tortear, we make tortillas on comal every day.
Do you know how to make tortillas? I've tried, but...
These two have known how to make tortillas since they were 6.
My grandmother taught me.
My aunt taught me. I was always asking to spend time with my aunt because she could teach me so many things. She taught me how to weave and how to make tortillas.
Do you think I could learn?
Sure. First, the masa has to have the right texture. It can't have too much or too little water.
What's in it?
It's just cornmeal and water, but the amounts have to be just right or the tortillas will fall apart.
I guess that's what happens to me.
Well, you have to work the masa to form a small ball of dough. Then you flatten it with your hands. I learned all this when I was about 6. Then you place the tortilla on the comal over an open flame. You work with your hands, and you turn the tortilla over when you see it starting to look dry on the top.
You do everything with your bare hands? Don't you get burned?
Of course you get burned. My aunt would put my hand to the comal if I made the tortillas wrong, but I learned quickly. And I made the tortillas for my aunt's family almost every day. That's how I started to earn my living by the time I was 7 or 8. I earned 25 quetzales a month. That was about $5 at the time.
Here in Iowa, we don't make tortillas every day like I did back home. We can't buy the masa, so we just eat whatever we can get at the food bank.
Maybe I can bring some masa?
Or sometimes if we can find some yeast, sugar, and flour, my brother will make us some pulgas.
Pulgas? Are those fleas?
No, it's bread. It's what we call the small loaves of sweet bread that we have in Guate.
We serve them with coffee sometimes for special occasions.
Like what?
Like when I was 15 and Jose asked for my hand in marriage.
Oh, really? What was it like?
Here, try on this huipil. We'll show you. I was about 12 or 13 when Jose first saw me weaving in the museum in Antigua. I think it was love at first sight for him, but I was so scared. Then when I was 13, I left Guatemala. My school teacher found me work as a nanny for a wealthy family in Costa Rica.
You were only 13 when you left home?
I wanted to help provide for my family, so I took the job. Anyways, when I got back to Guatemala, Jose was very anxious to marry me. He came to my house to ask my parents' permission. My mother told him no 3 times. But finally they agreed, and our families got together to host the engagement party.
We're going to have to tie the faja a little tighter or you'll lose your corte. You're so slim. Are you sure you've had children?
You have to imagine, if you're wearing a huipil this beautiful, it must be a special occasion.
Well, I think you're a little taller than a Guatemalan woman.
Jose's father was the mayor of San Antonio. He used the vara, the special scepter, to show we were to be married. Then Jose's family brought the cestos, big baskets of gifts. They gave my family gifts of coffee, beans, pulgas, and cardamomo.
Cardamom? Was it for the coffee?
No, it's used for the incense you burn on the day of the wedding, if there ever is one. Some couples don't have a wedding to save money.
Oh, tell her about the ransom money.
We're kidnapped?
No. It's true some people are kidnapped into marriage, but we were in love. And our families agreed. What happens is the bride's uncles all give money. My uncles were very generous and gave me about $500. That's what the bride is worth, and the mother of the bride will count the money carefully. But if the bride is seen with another man before the wedding, she has to give that money to the groom's family.
Good thing you were so in love, you kept every penny.
We wanted to have a marimba band, but we just played music from records and the radio instead. We all ate the food that my mother had prepared, and there were flowers everywhere. You can just imagine how happy I was, almost 15 and ready to be married.
Here, Cristina, taste this ponche we made. It's like what Esperanza had at her pedida.
Oh, thank you. It's beautiful. It's very tasty.
I remember that day all the men were drinking kusha, a homemade fruit liquor, but that's too strong for me. Me and my girlfriends had juice.
Christina, would you like to dance?
butterflies looks just like one we used back home that day.
Are butterflies common in Guatemala?
We see them all the time. And you know, all the different colors have different meanings.
Really? What do they mean?
There's so many. Let me try to remember. White butterflies signal endings and new beginnings. If a white butterfly enters your house, then someone or something will die. But by sacrificing this life, another may be saved. Yellow butterflies announce the solution to a problem.
But we don't see too many of those here in Iowa.
There are some black butterflies as big as a sheet of paper. They announce death or a coming tragedy. But if butterflies with colors come into your house, they announce a visit.
I see so many colors here. Are there many kinds of butterflies in Guatemala? Do they all have a meaning?
Of course, there are hundreds of kinds of butterflies there. And you know, people invent a meaning for everything in Guatemala. Like once, my friend, she was cleaning a rich guy's house, and she saw a huge snake in the bed.
Oh no! Not snakes again! What about the butterflies? What else do they mean?
Sometimes when I'm reading, the butterflies start to move across the tapestry. To me, they're like Carne Viva.
What do you mean by Carne Viva?
I think butterflies move through the silent stories we hold inside. They're elusive. They can't be detained. They represent the hopes we have for our children and the dreams we inherit from our ancestors. They're a part of the natural world, la Madre Tierra, from which all life stems. We share their beauty and their mystery when they come out at the loom to grace the tejido, or when they fly by.
Maybe they come from the past or the future.
Or maybe they are there to send us a message from someone or something far away.
From Angel, back in Guatemala.
Could be. You know, maybe the butterflies come to unite families who've been separated. Their flight links north to south. Now when they appear in our weavings, they connect our Guatemalan past with our lives here in Postville. They share their stories with the Iowans who display them in their homes.
That's so beautiful. I hope that I also can have wonderful wings of butterflies for my house.
Esperanza may be right about butterflies being dreams on the wing, but I can tell you why they're important to us. They sell like hotcakes at the farmer's market. The American ladies see the weavings with the butterflies on them, and they all want one. They ask us, "Can I have that in yellow? I want orange for my house. How soon can you have a blue one for me?" They're willing to pay a lot of money for these, so I've memorized the butterfly pattern. In fact, would you like something?
Well, yes, the butterflies are very beautiful, mysterious creatures, but I have to get going. I have to pick up my kids at the babysitter's. Thanks, everyone. I'm learning a lot from you. Even the things about myself. See you later. I'll try to bring you some masa or some thread for your weaving, if I can.
Adios, Christina. This is all very useful. We can't get any of this at the food bank.
The last time I went, they would only give us one roll of toilet paper. I tried to get 2. I told them there were 7 of us living here, but they said just 1 roll per family.
Remember the free meat we got?
Que tremendo. We all got sick.
Not me. I didn't eat it. I was nauseous that day, but not from the meat.
I remember I was here weaving that day when someone came pounding on the door. I didn't know who it could be, but they were sure anxious for us to open it. I figured if it was La Migra, I've already been detained. I have nothing to lose. So I went to open the door, and the minute I opened it, snap, they were snapping photos of me as the other one handed me a bag full of meat. They said,
"Here, take this meat courtesy of the plant. We know you aren't working and can't afford your own."
They kept snapping photos of me as he handed me the bag.
Yeah, I remember I made a stew that night.
Yeah, we all ate it and we all got sick.
Maybe it was the mead. Or maybe it's just our sadness.
Thank you. Bella, you told me few weeks ago that Monarchs migrate south. Where to?
Mexico. The monarchs that spend the summer east of the Rockies, like here in Iowa, go to Mexico in the winter.
So your butterflies are on the way to Cancun, like the spring breakers.
Well, not quite, no. Most of them are headed to central Mexico, to a forest just 2 hours west of Mexico City. But unfortunately, monarch habitats are threatened. There's a lot of deforestation.
I guess I've read about that. So where will they go?
No one really knows for sure, but it's clear that many travel to Guatemala.
Guatemala?
Yes, they like to overwinter at high altitudes with temperate climates.
Like in Antigua?
Yes, there's even a butterfly sanctuary close to Antigua, in one of the small towns.
Which town? Patsun? San Antonio?
Oh, something like that. Some small town in Guatemala.
You know, Della, I just met a group of women from the western highlands of Guatemala. Their hometowns are near Antigua.
Is this another one of your projects?
Yes, that's why I'm going to Postville.
Oh, the raid. Were they workers at agro-processors?
Yes. They don't like to talk about it much, but they're trying so hard to survive here and look after their kids.
Just like the butterflies I taught your children about.
Well, yes. Actually, butterfly is a symbol in Guatemalan culture. They often appear in typical clothing and in weavings.
Really? Have you seen their weavings?
Lots of them. They're beautiful.
Are they expensive?
No, not when you consider the skill that goes into making one.
Do you think you could buy one for me?
Sure. I can buy one this week when I go to Postville. What color?
Oh, I don't care about the color. I just want to support the women.
Thanks, Della. I feel so lucky to have met this woman.
It's more than luck. It's fate.
You think so?
I know so.
What are you cooking?
We're making a Guatemalan dish called pepian.
Sounds good. What's in it?
Chicken and a special sauce with chiles. Raquel got a chicken with her bachelor from St. Bridget's, so she decided to share it with us. It's the first time we've had chicken in a while, so I guess that's a special occasion.
Do you have it often in Guatemala?
Maybe once or twice a year when my parents decide they want to put their chicken in the pot instead of keep her for eggs. We'll have it for a special occasion like Christmas time or a first communion.
Oh, does everyone make it? All the families? Like Aurora. Did you have it for first communion?
No, I didn't have a first communion.
Oh.
She's an Alleluia.
I am not Catholic.
Oh. Well, now you tell me. In my church, they didn't do first communion either. They did confirmation.
Oh, but since my husband is Catholic.
Oh, interesting.
I think I'm going to have to do it.
I see.
It's contagious. Aurora says she was contaminated by a Catholic.
He says I have to study with him because he hasn't had his first communion either.
Aurora says she wants to go back to Guatemala to study with her husband. But we all know that as soon as the little Americano's born, all she wants to do is go back to Guatemala, get pregnant again, turn around, and come back. That's what she's been saying.
Poor Roberto. Aurora says she wants to go back to be with him for just one night.
One night is enough.
I was watching a show on TV about Costa Rica and Honduras and how families are spread up. And so I was just thinking, there are so many people out there who can't be together, not even for just one night, nothing more.
You just go back to Guatemala, come get pregnant, and come back.
It's not so easy. If I had some money, maybe I would find a way to return to Guatemala. But getting back into the U.S. is almost impossible now.
Sure, the getting pregnant part is not so hard, but the trip back and forth. Tell him to send it to you in the mail.
Well, these types of things are not easy to arrange in the mail.
Have her tell you about her quinceañera.
Oh, okay. How was your 15th birthday party? Have you already met Roberta or not yet?
No, not yet.
Did you have a different boyfriend?
Uy, había tantos?
No. When I turned 15, I did not have a boyfriend. I may have had a boyfriend when I turned 16.
Oh, really? What was his name?
No. When I turned 15, I only had girlfriends. And I remember that my mother didn't sleep the night before the party because she was cooking all night and getting ready.
And Aurora was dreaming of her many novios.
Raquel,
When Aurora was getting to know her first boyfriend, she was actually falling in love with her cousin at the same time.
Sounds a little complicated, but okay.
No, those things that Raquel is telling you, mentiras.
No. Well, the cousin makes the story a little more interesting.
Aurora has a way of looking for trouble.
Where should I put the microphone so you can tell me more?
No, that thing about my cousin that Raquel is telling you is pure lies that she has made up. Maybe she's the one who was in love with my cousin.
Okay, so getting back to our party. How did everything work out?
No, it's just that what she said, that I fell in love with my cousin, I didn't have the slightest interest in him. I reckon he was already married.
Well, maybe he was just so good looking.
He's hot. Maybe at that time he was.
He was already married. Are you taping this, Christina, or did you turn it off?
I am taping it all.
Erase this part. Erase it. My husband
Okay.
is going to get mad.
Okay, so getting back to our party. Did you just make food, or did people dance, or what?
No, there's no dancing. I'm evangelical.
And do people drink? Is that drinking?
No, none of that either. We just had a church service, and my mother, she made me a whippy.
Oh, she did? What did it look like?
It had the colors of summer. In fact, it looked a lot like this whippy. You see? Look at all the flowers, the birds, the caracoles.
What do they mean?
This pattern is the caracol, the snail. And there are the plums, and look at all the different tones of green. I wore a whippy like this one at my party.
Did you leave it behind in Guatemala?
Pues sí, I left all that kind of stuff back in Guatemala. I mean, what good is it here?
All right.
You know, the whole party, everything. My parents pay for everything.
Was it at your house, or where?
At my grandmother's house. That's where we had the party.
I had only been back in Guatemala for 2 days.
I never knew that Esperanza had been there.
Oh.
I never knew until I saw those pictures. I actually have a photo of Esperanza at the party. She was there.
So you went to the United States and then returned to Guatemala?
See, I had been back in Guatemala for just 2 days to make arrangements to bring my children to the U.S.
Esperanza returned to Guatemala by plane.
Wow, sounds luxurious.
When I went to the U.S. the first time, I also went by plane. She has flown back and forth so many times, she's like a regular stewardess. I obtained a visa for legal entry to the U.S. as a leaver. I got to return to Guatemala twice. Muy lista, Esperanza got on a plane, and in 2 hours she was back in the U.S. It took me 2 months.
You should have seen what was on Laura yesterday on TV. On this show, they were in Tijuana with immigrants. Pobrecitos. It was horrible to watch.
I would swear to leave it than to watch on TV.
For me, the worst part was crossing the river. I'm terrified of water. I asked, I have to swim in there? No way, I won't touch that water. There must be snakes in there.
I would have returned right then.
But I couldn't. I had to think of my children. We had to get to the U.S. So a man with a bad leg, he carried my daughter across, and since he was unsteady, she cried, yee-hee, yee-hee, as he limped. Later, we were detained, and we had to say that the cojo was my children's father, and that's why we were traveling together. My daughter couldn't understand why we were saying that.
What happened next?
The man and I were put in separate rooms, and they started to ask us personal questions.
Does your husband snore? Which side of the bed do you sleep on? What does he wear to bed? What do you do when you're in bed together?
That's horrible.
Somehow we gave the same answers.
Oh.
When we were detained there in Texas, they put us in a holding room, and I tried to keep calm and didn't cry until I saw where they wanted us to go to the bathroom. That was just too much.
What was it like?
It was just a hole in the ground, and there was waste, popo everywhere. I tried to be strong for my children, but it was too hard. I burst into tears. I didn't want them to have to live through that.
But you all made it.
Yes, from Texas we traveled by car to Postville, where my husband was waiting for us.
And what about you, Aurora?
My husband came to Postville just a few months after we got married. I missed him so much, so I decided I would come to the U.S. too.
All alone?
Pues sí. I decided I needed to be with him, and I would do whatever it took to get to Postville.
That must have been so dangerous.
I can't really tell you about any of this. I'm late. I have to go.
Aurora has been cleaning some houses to earn a little money. A lot of people have moved out, left Postville in a hurry. There are a lot of abandoned houses.
Adios, Cristina.
Adios.
Cuídense mucho. Y sus hijos también. Primero Dios.
I guess I've asked too many questions.
Oh, she's just very shy. Aurora doesn't like to talk about crossing the border. Nobody does. But Aurora's trip was truly horrible.
Why?
Well, she paid a coyote to bring her to the U.S., but it took her 3 tries until she made it.
3 tries? What happened?
Well, the first time La Migra Mexicana deported her back to Guatemala, they dropped her off in Tapachula and sent her across the bridge on the border of Guatemala and Mexico. She didn't have a dime, so she had to beg local businesses for money for bus fare to get back home.
What happened the second time?
She took a bus to the Guatemalan border and had to cross the river to Mexico at night with a group of migrants. The coyote told him he had a great idea, a good deal that would save them time and trouble walking across Mexico. So he loaded all 22 of them into a truck that was hauling chickens north towards the border city of Ciudad Juarez.
How could they all fit?
There was a layer of chickens in their crates, and then a layer of humans, and then several layers of chickens on top of that.
Oh my God.
They spent 2.5 days in the truck with no food or water, sandwiched between all the chickens. The coyote told them they'd be safe, but near the capital, the Migra found them, and they unloaded everyone. They took the women aside. What she means is the border agents las violaron a todas. They raped all the women, except for Aurora.
How did she avoid being assaulted?
Well, she was starving and thirsty. She couldn't even stand up, but also she was stained when she got off the truck.
What do you mean?
Well, she was covered in blood, so they didn't want her.
From the chickens?
No. She got her period while she was loaded on the truck.
Oh.
Then after a few nights in a Mexican jail, she was deported for the second time. But on the 3rd try, she finally made it.
How long did it take that time?
3.5 weeks. At one point, they spent 2 days in the mountains and almost 3 days walking without food or drink. Just when they were about dead, somewhere in Texas, they found water on a ranch. It was dirty and had dead animals floating in it. But they didn't have a choice. They had to drink it.
She must have been in terrible condition when she got here.
See? Her feet were bloody and blistered. Her toenails were purple. 4 of them fell off and have never grown back. The funny thing is, she kept the shoes she walked in from Guatemala for years after she got here. I think she finally lost them when she got kicked out of her apartment after the raid.
How could anyone risk so much to get here?
Well, Aurora says she's here for the love of her husband. But I think she's here to help her parents put food on the table for her brothers and sisters. Aurora is one of 11 children. The truth is, her parents are better off without her. She knows that.
She's so young and so brave.
It's the same for all of us. We're here for our families. We want to provide for our children. Send them to school. It's the same for me. I want my children to have a better life than I did. My mother left my sister and I when we were little to come to the States.
She left you alone?
Well, no, she left us with my aunt, but she had children of her own to worry about, so we were abandoned. Well, until my brother fell in love with you, that is. Thank God you could come live with us. You were about 15, right? That's when you started to learn how to weave. Yes, but weaving's not the only thing I learned at her house. Her brother taught me a few other things, too.
Christina, you have got to sign this petition.
About?
This is a ban against genetically modified corn.
I know it's been banned in some places, but here in Iowa?
The problem with genetically modified corn is that it destroys butterfly habitats.
How so?
Well, the seeds produce corn that insects can't attack. But the seeds can also resist herbicides, so the farmers spray more to kill the weeds, hoping to get a bigger harvest. And when they spray, they kill the milkweed.
That's the plant you have in your garden so the morning butterflies can lay their eggs.
Exactly. And, well, maybe it's not just the butterflies that suffer.
Oh.
I mean,
I'm thinking what my friends have told me about the importance of corn in Guatemala culture.
These genetically modified seeds change everything for farmers.
The farmers in Guatemala celebrate the harvest each fall and save a few seeds to plant the following spring.
Not anymore. Genetically modified seeds can only be used once. You have to buy new seed each year.
And nobody in Guatemala can afford that. And what about the traditions?
It all comes down to greed.
And big corporations want that pound of flesh. Show me to sign.
We're going to go over the testimonies again. You need to share as much detail as possible.
Estoy un poquito nerviosa, Ale. Is this risky? Giving out all this information, I never heard of anyone getting a visa because of telling stories about work.
Well, a U visa is a new type of visa that the U.S. government has established for people who can prove that they were victims of abuse in the workplace and can supply information about criminal activity under investigation. It's similar to the T visa for victims of human trafficking, but I feel your testimonies will better fit with the U visa.
I have nothing to lose, so I want to testify. St. Bridget's is paying my rent and helping me clothe and feed my children, but I don't want to be charity case.
I know you don't. None of you do.
I came to this country to work and to provide for my family with my earnings.
Well, and the U visa will enable you to stay in the U.S. temporarily, to work legally, and begin proceedings to bring family members. Then, if you pay the fees and have no legal record, you may ultimately qualify for a permanent resident status and maybe even U.S. citizenship.
That would be wonderful for all of us and for our families. We haven't been able to send money to Guatemala since the raid.
Well, so you need to tell Christina and me every occasion you can remember when there was verbal abuse, physical abuse, unwanted attention, pressure to do things in the workplace that were not appropriate because they were too dangerous or too personal, or even invitations to meet outside the workplace. Think back and try to remember specific times if you ever felt pressure to perform sexual favors, if that's what you heard when you were on the job. You need to be as precise as possible with names, dates, and events. So, Raquel, do you want to start?
Okay, estoy lista. Mi nombre es Raquel. Am I supposed to tell you everything? Todo?
Just tell the truth.
And tell everything.
At the plant, I worked in cut-up, Area 29.
Can you tell me how you were trained in your job?
Well, when I got to the plant, I had to watch a video, and then I started to work. They expected me to work really fast, and I had no idea how to do anything. They yelled at me, but I said to myself, if this is what I have to do to care for my children, I'll do it.
Didn't other workers help you, explain things to you?
Oh, no, we couldn't talk at work. If the boss saw you talking...
Hey, quiet!
He would scream and call you names.
Silencio, cerote!
He would come in and start saying...
Más rápido, huevona, más rápido!
He would shake and turn red. The longer he yelled, the more he would shake.
Hija de puta! Rápido! Rápido! Y silencio, estúpido, estúpido! Rápido y silencio, prostituta, puta, pendeja! Y silencio, coño, cerote.
But I worked well. Still, every night was like a nightmare when I worked there.
What in particular?
Well, there was also a lot of, how do you say, grabbing and touching at the plant, and invitations.
Sexual harassment?
See, that's what it was. If you were working on the line, you were just like a piece of meat. The men would get together and they would actually write things on the bathroom walls and stuff like that.
What exactly did they do?
Well, they would say how... they would say how women like to have sex, with their husbands or with men just off the streets, but lots of those things were pure lies, mentiras. Many of us heard the words puta, prostituta. Some women were silent, but I just left it off. So what if someone wants me? Want some pechuga? I have 72 chickens per minute.
Well, what would the men do?
There was one male supervisor, a man with a wife and kids, but he was always chasing after the younger women. He would threaten to take their jobs if they didn't do what he wanted.
Did he ever approach you?
Yes, he invited me to go out.
What do you mean?
Well, at first he said he just wanted to take me out to dinner to spend some time alone with me. And if I said no, I would lose my job and so would my husband.
So what did you do?
I just laughed it off and told him no because there aren't any restaurants in Postville good enough for me. But then, one night, I got off the line earlier than my husband. So, El Casco Verde, he followed me out to the parking lot. He came up behind me and he grabbed me by the hips. He said into my ear,
You were just playing hard to get. But I know that you want me. You've always wanted me.
He pulled me down to the ground.
Then what happened, Raquel?
It's okay. If she doesn't want to.
Exactamente. I told him I didn't want to. I tried to push him off me and reminded him that I'm married and you can only have me on the line, but not after hours.
Do you want to lose your job?
Then some other workers came into the parking lot and saw what was happening. He just stood up, dusted himself off, and walked away.
Did you report the attack?
Are you kidding? I wanted to keep my job.
Was he the only one, or were there others?
There was a lot of guys like him. It was like a regular meat market. There was even a female supervisor who was kind of alegre.
What do you mean?
Well, she would come in and she would get really close to some of the women. She would say things to them and touch them inappropriately. But we're from such a different culture that we didn't know what to make of it. It was very hard for us to have to face that.
I'm really sorry you had to deal with all this.
Yeah, but you know, I didn't really realize how bad things were at the plant until I had to sit down and work with a counselor. Then we women realized how bad things were at the plant and that we had suffered many kinds of similar mistreatment. They picked on us because we're from Guatemala y somos chapines.
Chapines?
See, first of all, we're smaller. Our size makes us perfect for detail work, so the women were usually put on the line. Second, we're from farther away than the Mexicanos, so we wouldn't just pack up and look for work somewhere else. We wouldn't leave the plant, and we wouldn't leave Postville no matter what. We would do anything to keep our job and to keep our family together.
Were you afraid?
Well, I guess I could have defended myself if I had to. I was always carrying a knife or scissors when I worked on the line. But it's true. They insulted us all the time. They called us wetbacks.
Mojado.
Huevones. Pendejos.
Indijos.
There was also a lot of people who didn't know how to defend themselves because they spoke a lot of different languages. They made fun of us because of that too. Not everyone spoke Spanish.
Well, are you speaking for yourself or all the women?
For me, I could just laugh it off. What are those guys going to do to me? Other women just don't have a sense of humor. They've been doing a lot of crime. A lot of tears have been shed at Postville.
Raquel, workers have rights. Women have rights. It doesn't matter if you're a citizen or not. Labor laws protect workers, and your story can help make changes at the plant in Postville. It may even help other workers in other states, like Mississippi and North Carolina and Louisiana.
Esperanza, what can you say about your work?
How do I start?
Well, just start with your name and a little bit about yourself.
Mi nombre es Esperanza. I'm 37 years old. I'm indigenous. My parents and my grandparents are my example in life. Like many other people in my family, I'm a weaver. Weaving's been my work since I was 7 years old.
Why did you come to this country?
We came to the U.S. hoping to change our destiny. We wanted to give our children a better future. We're here with our children, 2 sons and a daughter. I'm also a grandmother. I have a granddaughter who's 1 year and 3 months old.
How did you get started at the plant?
When I first got to Postville, I started looking for work. My husband was working there, so I started working there too, on May 11th, 2003. I was so excited they gave me a job at agri-processors. It was a new experience. I worked in Area 29, which was cut up.
Well, describe a typical day.
We started work at 9 a.m., and until 1 or 2 a.m., we worked without stopping. I remember the mayordomo would always be screaming and telling me to do everything faster, and it had to be 12 trays a minute. He would scream and shake. He would shake his fist like a baby and tell me to go faster.
Más rápido, hija de puta. Rápido, huevona, rápido!
So I told him, why don't you show me how to do it faster? He was just shocked that I had talked back to him, but his eyes grew wide and he dropped his clenched fist and came up next to me on the line and worked by my side. I worked in that area of the plant for 3 years. During that time, I saw how they treated all the workers. They screamed at everyone.
That would be difficult to take. Did you stay on that part of the plant?
No, after 3 years, my children arrived in the U.S., so I asked to be moved to a different part of the plant so I could spend more time with them. I could see how they'd get up and get ready for school in the mornings, but by the time I got home, they were already asleep. But they wouldn't change my shift at work until we agreed to buy a car from the manager.
From the manager?
Yes, in fact, in the end, we bought 2 cars from the manager. When I first got to Postville, they wouldn't hire me until we purchased a Chevy Blazer for $5,000.
That's unbelievable.
But when my husband went to pay for it, the manager had decided he wanted $6,000, or there'd be no job for me. So that was the first car we bought. The second was a green van.
Well, how much did you pay for that?
Another $5,000, but I was willing to pay because it meant I could spend time with my children.
Well, so what was your new job?
Area 14. Evisceration. One Tuesday night, the manager told me I could leave work early at 7 and report back at 6 the next morning. I was excited because I could get my kids ready for school in the morning. But working in Area 14 changed my life. The manager put me to work on the line with all men.
So was that really better?
Well, no, not exactly. They were running 70 to 80 chickens per minute, and my arms would get really tired. My fingers would be numb. My eyes were constantly irritated and filled with tears from the blood that runs along the floor with the chemicals. My nose was constantly running, but I could not stop to wipe it because I couldn't stop working to take off my gloves. Then one day I told the manager I had to go to the bathroom.
No, keep working.
But please, I need to go now.
Just keep working, pendeja. It's 80 chickens a minute.
But I need to go.
Keep working, pendeja. It's 80 chickens a minute. If you don't want your job, I can find someone else who will do it for you.
You wouldn't let me go. I peed my pants. The same thing happened to many other women.
Didn't they give you regular breaks? That's the law.
Yes, there was one 30-minute break for an 8-hour shift, but by the time you got off your boots and your apron, there was no time. You had to choose between eating or going to the bathroom. And one entire floor would take their break at the same time. Sometimes the human waste would flow out of the toilets onto the cafeteria floor.
Yes.
How could you put up with this?
Those days were difficult, but we had enough money to eat and to take our kids out on Saturday and buy them a hamburger. But since the 12th of May, since the day of the raid, the lives have changed for all the Hispanic families in this community.
Well, what do you mean?
My sons told me the other day that they don't want to go to school anymore because we're worthless in this country. It's been really hard surviving here. I can't believe we've done it for 5 months without work. I pray to God for my sons who are still in school to keep it up and get ahead in life, so they don't have to live through the same stories we've lived through.
You're so brave for sharing what you've told us today. If enough people share their stories, we can force things to change and we can break the cycle. But nothing can change unless your story is heard. So, Aurora, would you share your story with Christina?
My story? There's really nothing special about it.
Well, that's okay. We need to hear typical stories as well as unusual ones.
Pues, as soon as I got to Postville, I applied a job at the agri processor. They gave me a job in the turkey slaughter area, and they put me to work on the line. They didn't really train me. They said, you stand right here, and then you do this. used 2 fingers to grab the lungs and rip them out of the turkey. They wanted me to do it really fast. When I first started, the lungs would keep slipping away from me, and I couldn't work as fast as they wanted me to. It was very difficult. I was so cold that first day, I was numb. But little by little, I learned the job. I found my way to get the lungs out of the turkeys fast as they were coming by on the line. There was a lot of blood where I worked. They gave me a jacket to cover my clothes, but the blood seeped through. That's pretty much how it was. I don't have anything more to say.
She isn't telling the whole story. Yes, there was a lot of blood on her, but it wasn't all animal blood.
Raquel, hush.
I'm just telling the truth.
What you know happened 2 years ago, and she told it to you as a sacred secret.
It was sacred until they destroyed it. They have human blood on their hands now.
Okay, so the rumors are true.
What are you talking about? Whose blood?
2 years ago, Aurora discovered she was pregnant. People gossiped. They said the baby wasn't her husband's, maybe the manager's.
Nasty rumors.
When Aurora was 7 months pregnant, she lost a child while she was working on the line at the plant.
Does it happen to many women?
Who knows?
Aurora was not able to take regular breaks to eat or go to the bathroom, so she
lost the baby.
She had a miscarriage. Estaba tan triste. Her spirit was broken, and then her body got sick.
Did anyone try to help her?
See, Ale took her to the free clinic in Decorah for medical care, and now counselors come to Postville, where she refuses to talk. All this has made her much worse.
She suffered a lot of mistreatment at the plant because people said that since the child was not her husband's, she had an abortion, not a miscarriage.
She's lived through a nightmare. And she's so young. What will the future hold for her? Will this baby bring her home?
What? With no husband, no job, no money, no papers, and stuck in Postville?
A baby is a blessing and a promise for the future.
My promise for the future is as soon as this ankle bracelet comes off, I'm gone.
Those stories aren't easy to hear.
No.
These women have suffered so much. Do they have a case for a U visa?
It's hard to say. Their cases are strong, and they have a very fine attorney who knows the law.
So, then they should get the visas, right?
You know the climate surrounding immigration in our country, Christina. But the women are willing to take the risk. The truth is, I really admire their courage because the only system of justice they know is what they grew up with in Guatemala, and they're skeptical.
What do you mean?
Are you aware of the massacres? What happened in Guatemala was genocide.
Genocide?
The civil war in Guatemala lasted more than 30 years. Men were tortured, dismembered, and killed. Women were raped, and children disappeared. More than 200,000 dead. These attacks focused on indigenous villages across the country, and conservative reports say that at least 83% of the victims were Mayan people. Prosecutions for these crimes were almost non-existent. There was no justice for the loss of life that happened there.
But this is the United States!
Well, yes, and then with the rain and the helicopters, I mean, I can't even imagine the fear the sound of helicopters triggered. That was the sound villagers associated with the military approaching to attack during the war in Guatemala.
They must have been traumatized.
Yes, and now this generation, they come to the U.S. in search of a better life for their children and grandchildren. And they're rounded up like cattle and shipped away. The ICE agents were actually armed with guns and cattle prods.
That's horrible, but what can I do?
Well, I think you could help tell the women's stories.
I haven't lived this story. It's theirs to tell.
Haven't you written a book already? know how to get people to listen. If you really want to help, make sure these stories are heard, not just by us, but by people across the country, around the world, and you make it bilingual. Spread the word here in Iowa and in Guatemala. People argue about immigration all the time. There are 800 miles of wall blocking entry from thugs and terrorists coming in from the south. They just come to take our jobs, right? Those are the myths. You know the truth about why they come and what happens to them when they get here. The only thing that is going to change people's hearts and minds are the stories. Just go. Tell them. Tell them how this affects families, women, and children. Let their stories speak the truth.
I wish I could tell you there was happy ending not just for the butterflies, but for all migrants. But the truth is that migration is just a vague promise for the future. It is triggered by the instinctual wish for a better life for our children, but it's uncertain. Just last month, on Labor Day weekend, I stayed late in my office to work. Finally, I decided it was time to head home. As I was walking through a grove of pine trees, here just outside Long Hall, I heard a strange sound, like a low humming. I stopped to listen, but as I looked up at the trees, I saw thousands of monarch butterflies hanging from the trees, resting in the warm September evening. I knew I was in the presence of something rare and fleeting. I sat and watched them, trying to imagine what drives them to travel so far, to lay their eggs when they will never see the fruits of their journey. I slipped away quietly as the sun began to set. I called Della. She would want pictures of this, and she needed to know that the monarchs were thriving right here in Iowa, thanks to her and others like her who take small steps to offer a safe haven. The next day, I returned with my family. I told everyone I had something very special to share. I held my breath as I was approaching the grove, hoping that monarchs would still be clustered in the pines. I first heard a low hum, then, looking up at the thousands of monarchs, I whispered, "You see them? They're getting ready for a long trip. Some 3,000 miles. They're on the way south, to Guatemala," Nate said. "Della told us," said Dominique. And suddenly monarchs began to rise. A spectacular cloud of orange and black against blue Iowa sky. Their fluttering wings made the journey look easy, and their mysterious beauty was breathtaking. As we watched the clusters appear on the horizon, we slowly started heading for home, with a mixture of feelings and a million of questions in our heads. Would the monarchs reach their destination safely? Would there be shelter for them? Or would they return to destruction, devastation, and hunger? Would the future generations be able to sustain themselves? What did this monarch cluster symbolize for me and for my family? Why did they choose to stop here to gain strength? My thoughts quickly returned to the women of Postville. I tucked my children into bed, went to my desk, and sat down to write.
Hoy día luna, día pena, hoy me levanto sin razón, hoy me levanto y no quiero, hoy día luna, día pena, hoy día luna, día pena, hoy me levanto sin razón, hoy me levanto y no llego a ninguna destinación. Arriba la luna, oea, arriba la luna, oea. Hoy día luna, día pena, hoy me levanto sin razón, hoy me levanto y no quiero, hoy día luna.